It's now, well, we're 2015,
Yes.
and it's the end of March, isn't it? And I can't remember when it was I said to you we're going to interview you, Patrick, and it was while you were still a butcher.
Well, it must have been, yes, when I still got the shop.
Yes,
which
it was.
2.5 years ago.
So
now.
you've been
Yes.
retired 2.5 years.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, and all that time I've been thinking, I must phone Patrick and
I know.
organise this.
Where does
And
time
time
go?
goes on.
Yes, it does.
It goes on. It absolutely goes on.
Yes.
And well, it's very nice to see you.
Sorry.
And you look just the same, and you don't look like a retired man. But actually, you always looked very young. But
Did I? I'm not
yeah,
sure
always
about that.
did. No, you did. And the other thing is that Ollie does. Too,
Yes.
who's taken on the shop.
Well, he is young though, isn't he?
Well,
Yeah.
of course he's younger than you, but I think it's something to do with being a butcher.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Healthy living.
Yeah,
Yes, yes.
something like healthy living.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
How is retirement anyway?
It's good.
Is
yes,
it?
Yeah. Yeah. I you know, sort of like I think a lot of people retire. Say, how do they manage to find time to work? I've got so many things on. It's not a matter of what can I do to fill my time in. It's what needs doing most and
Yeah.
that really. But I don't regret retiring, but there are elements I miss.
Yes. What do you miss?
I miss the the business. I
do you?
enjoyed selecting the animals, following them through the costings. I had no problem with going home in the evening and sitting on the computer and doing new labels and working out the pricings and everything.
So
and
you
cashing
took
up.
to computing well then?
Well, yeah, so it makes me sound an expert. No, I use it for what I want it for.
Yeah,
You know, I had a publisher program where I could do the labels and that,
Yeah.
and someone else sort of set it up, and then I could just go there and change it and mess about with it.
Yeah.
But I didn't do my accounts or anything like that on it. But the other thing that was very good was for costings. So I could do my costings on it. So
Yeah.
it was a godsend for that. Otherwise, you sort of did it longhand.
Yes.
Whereas on that, I could just go there and press a few buttons, and if the price changed, I can juggle the figures a bit.
I'll tell you the problem with all that though is as an archive, we sometimes get old ledgers.
Oh yes.
You can see how something costs 1 and 4.
Yes.
It's got 1 and 4.
Yes, I know what you mean.
Yeah, so
yes, it does.
all that will go, won't
Yes,
it?
it will.
We
That's
won't
right.
have these
No.
this historical evidence
No.
to say how prices
Yes.
change.
So I missed all that,
Yeah.
and I missed the customers because there are customers that I'd had for generations. Literally, you know,
Yeah.
the daughter might have come in, and then she was a grandmother, had children, and so
Yeah.
on. So several generations that I served.
And that's actually something to do with Bampton Village, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because there are people who've been here for generations.
Well, that's right.
That's fantastic, isn't
Well,
it?
it was Bampton, but some of them are what I inherited from Whitney that came.
Oh, right.
People from Whitney used to come over still,
Yeah.
and I knew them. And I'm afraid the way to keep in touch with a lot of them now, look in the Whitney Gazette and see it on the obituaries.
It's terrible when it gets to
One
that
last
stage.
week when my customers were dying.
Oh, yeah.
Not that was from Whitney that used to come over every so often to Bampton.
Yeah.
So I do miss that. I do miss the customers.
Yeah.
And, you know, those that came in and would talk about the gardening, those that talked about the rugby to me, and those about charity work and all sorts of different things.
Yeah.
And I miss all that. And the buzz of the shop when it was going well. You know, because it's got a big staff, and when they were all going well, and we got a lot on, and yeah, well, you do this, and we'll do that, and something. And that was great. And most of the time, it was like that. When it went wrong, you know, I thought, well, I don't need this. You know, you get to a stage like that, and it is a nightmare.
Yeah.
And also all the red tape. I got
Yes,
so fed up with so much of that. Records we used to keep just in case.
Yeah.
You know.
But you know why? Because you occasionally hear about a rogue butcher or something who's
Yeah.
selling green chickens or whatever.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So of course everybody else has to toe the line
Well,
because of the one or
yes,
two rogues.
it is.
And it's such a shame
Yeah.
that happened.
But
And it drives people mad.
It does. But if someone bought pork pie and got food poisoning,
Yeah.
and they came back or went to the public health people, I had to have a record to say that I knew when that pie was cooked. I knew, and I got a record to show that it was cooked at the correct temperature, it cooled properly, the meat was stored properly, to go back all those stages.
Yeah.
But we had to keep all those sort of records.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, maddening. But
yeah.
one can understand why, but it is maddening.
Yes,
and I think
it is.
drives a lot of business
It
people
does.
abroad, doesn't it? And farmers particularly.
Yes,
very much
and
so.
sort of, and even like the labour side of things, employing people, and more
Yeah.
more and more health and safety regulations and contracts of employment and all that. You know, years ago we used to just, oh yeah, I'll come and work for you, so you know how much I'll pay you, and it was all done verbally, and that's how it was done.
Yeah.
But you can't do that anymore,
No,
and it just
times
got
have changed.
more and more of it all the time. Yeah, and
I'll tell you what about your shop though. It always had, and actually it still has, a very happy atmosphere. Now I don't know what that's to do with, but it was.
yes,
You know, some businesses and some places can feel miserable.
yes.
And people slightly snapping. They never were in your shop. They were
well,
always
well,
cheerful.
obviously we like that side of it.
Yeah.
You know, I certainly, the fact that my philosophy was always have a happy, smiling face, and
And
as soon as you come in, you're welcomed and serve you as soon as you can. Not fiddle about waiting and
Yeah.
the staff is busy talking and ignoring the customers, and that you
Yeah.
don't want that. And I think that's what keeps one of the things that will draw customers back if they come in
Yeah.
and
It
and
feels
have
good.
yeah, and also the customers, they chat with the people serving them, and more often not,
Yes.
they know the other people that are waiting. I know Christmas time, when there was a queues and it'd be sort of right round the corner, up the road,
Yes.
sort of right around far. You used to sort of feel bad, and you were serving away as quick as you could, have as many people. You can only do it so quickly. And I know one or two people I spoke to, oh, don't worry about that, that's all part of Christmas. But you know,
Going
queuing up for the
shop.
turkey on a Christmas Eve, getting there at 7 o'clock or whatever, queuing up, is part of Christmas to us. You know, got in there, and they all chatted amongst themselves. And okay, there were some that didn't like it, but I think quite a lot of people, that was part of Christmas.
Yeah.
You know, they thought Christmas had come now because they got to queue up for the meat.
Yeah. No, it's very nice that.
Yes.
That's the most hectic time.
Oh,
I
yes.
don't know how much sleep you get on Christmas time. That must be really hectic.
Yeah, the physical work is one thing. It was the organising and making sure we got everything. And you ask Ollie, you know, he didn't realise. You know, I'd
I
say
think the first Christmas it was a bit of a hiccup.
Yeah.
I think he might not have told you, but there was.
yes.
Yes, but
Yes.
maybe if he hasn't told you, I shouldn't have told you. But he seems to be managing fine.
Yes, but it is a problem, and you know, it all comes from all ways, and the buck stops obviously with him.
Yeah.
And it is a, you know, one of my stresses was because the main thing we sold was turkeys, lots of turkeys, and of course they're expensive, and you don't want a lot left over, so trying to juggle the numbers and weights and everything. And so as soon as they all come in, you've got to try and allocate. And once they were allocated to everybody, and I knew we'd got 20 spare or 50 spare, whatever, then that was a relief. I knew everyone had got one to order them, and then I got the spare ones, how many I got to sell. So, and that side of things, and then we used to cure sort of gammons all ready for Christmas, and have to sort those out and make sure.
How much of what you do is done on premises? Like you've got the gammon, which is your own home cured, isn't
Yeah.
it? Is it all home cured, or what?
Well, yeah,
we'll
so
talk
as far
about
as I
your
know, he
time.
carries on the same as I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, I started. Yeah, all the bacon rashers and gammons all cured ourselves.
Yeah.
All the pies we used to make ourselves.
Yeah.
All the cooked meats we did ourselves, with the exception of black pudding and corned beef.
It's fantastic. It's a lot of skills,
Yes,
isn't it?
and obviously sausages,
Yes,
made
I'm
our own
gonna come to
sausages and
those.
burgers, those sort of things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Could you explain what curing is for people who don't know?
Curing it's turning fresh meat, as in mostly pork, it's usually pork, into to bacon, into curing. So it's mainly salt. You do put other things in, salt and saltpetre, and other things to flavour it. But it is to cure it. And obviously, the years ago, the idea of curing it was to preserve it. It's a form of preserving it, so it lasts so much longer. when
In
it's
the months
cured.
you didn't have fresh meat.
Particularly, that's right.
Yeah,
Particularly in
yeah,
the summer months. Yeah.
And now you prize-winning sausages.
Yes, the sausage was very kind to me. When I started when I worked for my old boss, and he started, because many years ago people didn't make sausages to the same extent. I'm going back in the probably 40s and 50s, and my old boss started making a few, and was very proud of what he made. It wasn't very many in those days, probably, I don't know, 50, 60 pounds a week, I suppose. And so when I started working on made them, we actually did it all by hand. And then going on from that, I sort of got a machine to actually mix them with. We still obviously made them by hand with ingredients, but I did a lot of research when I was at college and also afterwards, and I started entering competitions. So there again, you learn a lot there, because swapping ideas and talking to the judges and that. So yeah, and of course that brings in a lot of publicity, which is very cheap. You know,
Yes.
it does.
Well, you bought this. There's this great banner outside which says
Yeah.
Craig Rowland.
Yes.
We all know him.
Craig Rowland, yes, yes,
And that's fantastic.
yes,
And now Ollie won the prize.
yes.
Did he?
He's-
Now, did he invent something? I'm really interested. Or did you just say, "Hey, Ollie, here's the recipe"?
Oh no, he had all my recipes. Yes,
Yes.
I don't think he's done any new ones as far as I know.
Right.
I think the one.
So were you quite inventive as a?
I didn't do.
sausage
I did one or two I did on my own. Not
Yeah.
very many, in all honesty. The one that I did on my own, completely on my own, which was quite different, was the BST, or Blood, Sweat and Tears breakfast sausage, they call sometimes,
Oh, it's called
which is the one that the
called
Craig
breakfast
Revel
sausage.
Horwood one, and that
Oh.
was one I purely did on my own, and it is quite different. Most of the, because I have a basic seasoning I used, which again it's not the one that I inherited from my old boss. It was one from a company that do there are literally hundreds of different sorts of recipes, and it's a basic plain sausage and seasoning, which I thought was it was nice as a plain sausage, and then you can also do things with it. So you have the plain sausage, and then you add leeks to it to make a leek sausage, or apple sausage, and so on, and whatever else. So I use that seasoning virtually all the time. There are one or two exceptions to that where I bought other seasonings, because you can buy virtually any seasoning you want anyway, of different flavours. But the BST, it was what I call BST, blood, sweat and tears. That's what it was.
Sounds as if it's extra work.
And it was in the 2007, I think it was, Rugby World Cup. So I follow the World Cup quite seriously. And so blood was black pudding. Sweat was the salt element, and tears onions. It's got onions in it.
Oh right. Okay.
So I combined it all the two and came up with that. And it was very popular. I won quite a lot of competitions with it. That one being the one with the Craig Rebel Hall, with the best in the south of England. Yeah.
I mean, other competitions for your hams as well. And I mean, do they
there
have
are
lots of competitions?
Yes.
That we don't know about, but butchers do.
Yes. Not well, there is nationally, not for every butcher, but I don't know how many years ago, it was probably 20 years ago, I joined what they call Q Guild, Butchers Q Guild. It's not like a lot of, say, the Builders Guild or whatever it is, where you just pay your money and you get a certificate. We have very high inspections every year, or 18 months, and it's a lot higher than the local authorities. Where they come round and they do all about the hygiene of the shop. It's everything's all up together. Then the staff, that they look smart and their knowledge is on, and the meat you sell, that where it comes from, the quality and everything. So it's very, very high standard. It was about 140, 150 in it when I was in it. I think it might have dropped a little bit now. I'm talking about nationally, UK wise, Scotland, Wales, England, and Ireland. And we sort of swapped ideas. And we'd do that, and there was competitions within that, and assessments. So you might enter a competition. Okay, you might not win it, but you get a gold award because you got over 95 points or something like that. Like the sausage competition.
Yeah, but it's the swapping ideas, fantastic.
It is, and also the fact that you recognise that you're okay. You might not have won, but you reach a standard which is not, because it's like sausages. Well, these other things as well. You start off with 100 points, and then there's 5 sections for raw and 5 sections for cooked, and so you start off with 10 points in each section, and then so out of, say, how it's mixed, then if you like, might be 1, and they give you 10 points for that, and if there's any flaws in it, then they might knock 1 point off or 2 points. And so that's all the criteria. So I think it was over 95 to get a gold, and I nearly used to always get a gold.
Fantastic.
But to actually win it, often it was only very, very small margins, a point, maybe half a point.
I'm really interested to know how somebody gets to be a butcher. I mean, I cannot imagine a little lad saying, I want to be a butcher. I can imagine a little lad saying, I want to be an engine driver. This kind of thing. But so how has it happened way back? Is it in the family or what?
No, not at all. I'm a farmer's son. My father farmed. I've got 2 older brothers who went into the farming. As a child, I was always interested in animals, as in, if we had a pig died, I might well skin it and see where the bones were and the intestines. I know it might sound a bit crude, but it fascinated
like
me.
Intelligent,
but one of the first things that I found interesting was that we all got the same sort of bones, and that was as a child I found that very interesting. Really, that our bones were the same bones as a cattle had got or a pig had got, and things like that. So I was always interested in that. I've also had my aunt, as in my father's sister. Well, she went to college in North Wales and stayed there and married a butcher who had a shop in Harlock. So we were quite, some part of the family you keep in touch with, some you don't, but we were always very close to them. So I used to go to Wales quite often, and I used to watch what went on in the shop and was interested in it. And so when I came to leave school, I wasn't any good at school at all. I enjoyed school and I enjoyed the social life and the sport, but lesson-wise, I'm quite dyslexic, so that probably didn't help. So I really wasn't very good, and I came out without any exams to talk of. And Dad said we ought to go to college, to Whitney Tech, and try and get some O levels. So I did that for a year, with doing an animal husbandry degree in the agricultural section.
So that's their specialisation, isn't it?
Yeah, so I did that. Then still not really know what I did, assuming that I would probably come home actually on the farm, because my brothers were there, and it wasn't a huge farm. Although Dad, and at the time, they were trying to rent a farm for my brothers, because they're 5 and 8 years older than me, so they were mid 20s, I suppose, late 20s. And they got on the short list of several to rent from away. Well, now had they got that a farm, I'm sure I would have got stayed at home with Dad. But because they didn't get it, and although I was more than welcome to go home, and Dad would have sorted something out, we'd have all been at home, and I don't know what we'd have done, but we would have been home. I didn't sort of fancy it somehow, and so I thought, well, I'll go in to do the butchery, because I've always been interested in that side of it, the meat side, and I thought, well, it would work in quite well with the farm, having the animals from the farm.
Yeah.
So,
But on the whole now, butchers aren't, I mean, they used to be involved in the butchering, weren't they? The actual
Yes.
killing, because now the central slaughterhouse, I know there was a great dispute about this, and a lot of people didn't like it,
yeah.
that there weren't local slaughterhouses anymore. But so you're not so much interested in...
No,
or
the killing
involved in-
side of it, actual butchers killing it, buying and killing it and then selling it in their shop, really didn't happen in my time. I know there possibly are the odd shop about now, and I'm talking very, very few in probably very country parts of the country.
Well, I
rural
know
parts of the country.
in Bampton we have Slaughterhouse Lane, don't we? Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
Did you not know?
No, I
Oh, goodness
don't
me,
think so.
because that's the lane that just goes round the back of what is now the Co-op, or the coffee
Oh
shop
yes.
down there.
Oh yes, round there. Yes.
That used to be Slaughterhouse Lane.
Oh right, yes.
So it must have had the Slaughterhouse.
Yes, it would have done. Well, I think virtually all butchers would years
All
ago.
villages would have had the local.
Well, they did. Well,
Yeah.
I think each butcher did. Virtually.
Yes, back in the butcher shop.
Yeah, because my old shop in Whitney had a slaughterhouse
Did
at the
it?
back of it.
Yes,
Yes.
and they
well, I
all
say
closed
slaughterhouse.
up.
It was just a little barn which they took the animals and
Yeah.
slaughtered.
And I know Frida Bradley talked about as children going down there and watching the animals being slaughtered. You think you wouldn't let your children see
No,
such things, would
that's
you? You'd
right.
think they were too delicate to see
Yes.
such things, but then they did.
Yes.
Yes.
But-
so that's changed totally.
Yeah. So I was never involved with that.
But at what point do you get to see the animal now? Do you see when it's being cut into pieces or not? And do you see the animal before it's butchered?
Butchered. Yes. Yeah. See, like say, well, okay, they're all slightly different. Cattle. I used to buy the animals from my brothers or people. If they were virtually everything I sold was from where I knew it came from. So as if it
Yeah.
wasn't my brother, I've got a cousin that farms, or neighbouring farmers, or people that I knew. Certainly latterly, like the beef came from Brian Wallace, and the pigs. Although years ago my brothers did pigs, they stopped doing them, and they come from Hobbs's at Kelmscott. So they go to the. So I might select them myself. A lot of the time I didn't tend to, because once they knew what I wanted, I'd just ring up, I want 6 pigs or 12, 20 pigs or whatever it might be, so many lamb, a couple of cattle. They'd send what I wanted. And when they'd come back, they usually quite often wanted to know, particularly the cattle, what were they like, what were they for weight, especially if it was a new batch, what were they like for weight, were they fat and so on. And then I'd say, well, they were this and they were that. And, yes, and then next week there'd be more what I wanted.
So when you criticise, hang on. When you criticise, you say there's too much fat on that lot, or they were too stringy. What do you say?
Well, there's
What's
two
the criticism of a
two basic things you're looking for. One is fatness.
Yeah, literally having fat on it.
Fat,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Now they're all graded. Animals are graded, particularly cattle and sheep are graded
Yeah.
for fat, for amount of fat and for conformation. And pigs are only graded for fatness, back fat. How much they probe them and actually measure with a little probe, actually measure the back fat. Now, well, there's a grading system. So they go, the conformation, conformation means how much muscle there is to bone.
Okay, which is the red meat. Yeah.
Yeah, the red meat to bone. Okay, so obviously if you're and that goes from 1 to 5.
The best being.
No, it isn't. Sorry, I beg your pardon. No, it goes Europe. EUROP. 5. That is the, so E is the best, and so that for that you a real top quality show animal, which in cattle terms, you don't get very many.
Oh.
You, which is the next one, which is a very, very good conformation, and you would get quite a sprinkling of those from good beef cattle, beef herd. O is meant to be average.
Okay.
EUR, sorry, not O. R is average. And then O, which is a bit below, so it's a bit plain, and P, which is very plain.
Now, can you look at a cow in a field? Well, perhaps you need to go a bit closer and say, yeah, that's a good one.
I could have a good guess, yes.
Really?
Yes, I could,
Yeah.
yes.
And a pig,
Well,
you could do the same?
Well, pig, you're only looking at the back fat.
Okay.
But again, I'd know that the conformation easy enough. And pigs and cattle are relatively easy because you can see the shape of them.
Yeah, and like a
Whereas
sheep.
it's not so easy because you've got all the wool, so you need to handle them more for that.
Yeah.
And then the fatness is 1 to 5.
Yeah.
That's in simple terms. They actually break them down, so you get E's, you get E plus and E minus, and a U plus and a U minus, and the same with the fatness. So a 1 is very, very lean. It's got virtually no fat on it whatsoever. If you kill it out, it's all you can see is just basically lean. Then 2 has just got a slight covering up at. 3 is just a nice covering to cover everything, which is the average. And 4 a bit fatter, and 5 is very fat. And again, they're broken down in each section. So from a fatness point of view, from a conformation point of view, you want really as good as you can get.
Yeah.
But of course, normally the better they are, the dearer they probably are. But the more meat to bone, it does make a lot of difference when you come to costing.
Yeah.
Because say beef, where on an ordinary average type animal, you'll get a third loss. So,
really?
So if you buy
Yeah.
a carcass, a third of that will go in the bone bin, which is bone and fat.
There's a whole lot of questions to ask. Because there's all that. What you get comes out of the slaughterhouse and you get it. What have you got? You've got a whole animal there that you've got to cut it to pieces?
The cattle comes back into what you call quarters.
Okay.
We get back. So it goes to the abattoir, it's slaughtered, and it's cut in half.
Yes.
So you've got from head to tail, not across the middle.
Yeah.
So that hangs in the abattoir for a day or two to set.
Now, in the old days, when I was a little girl, a long, long time ago, you used to see butcher shops with these large pieces, recognisable cow, recognisable sheep
Yes.
hanging there. You don't see that anymore, do you?
No.
Is that by law, or
Yes.
is that just...
Well, it's
public
law in as much
sensibility?
that it has to be kept at to temperature.
Yeah.
So if you've got a cabinet in the shop which was chilled with glass in front, yes, you could do that. And also, you shouldn't have it where customers can touch it or breathe and sneeze over it and this sort of thing.
Yeah.
So that's why you don't get
Yes.
lambs and
You certainly
joints
used
hanging
to.
in the window.
And even heads were sitting there. I remember
Yes.
as a child being fascinated, slightly
yes.
appalled by it.
Yes.
It'd have to make you a vegetarian, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So cattle come back. So they hang as sides in the abattoir to set, and then just so they load them onto the lorry to deliver them, then they're quartered. So the forequarter and the hindquarter are split. So delivered back to the shop will be 2 hindquarters and 2 forequarters, which is as big as they can bring it back, really, because obviously from a cattle it's quite big. They're normally the carcasses I was looking for were about anything from 3 to 380 kilos, I suppose, 3 to 400 kilos.
Yeah.
So
carrying this stuff around is quite...
well, yeah. So if
it's
it's a
strange.
400 kilo carcass, then in round figures, about each quarter is going to be about 100 kilos, which is quite a bit.
Yeah.
Quite a bit away.
Has it got a skin on at that stage?
No,
They've taken the skin off?
no skin, no
And
intestines.
all what I call the gibbly bits?
No, they've all gone. Yeah,
Where do they go, just out of interest?
Well,
Does that go to dog food?
so some of it we get. While it goes off for processing, a lot of it would be go for dog food. Yeah, certainly. Pig's liver, pig's hearts, that would tend to go to the shop and be sold. Often, people buy them, but if what isn't, tend to go into pet food.
Because again, as a child, we had tripe.
Tripe, yeah.
But people,
Still get tripe.
Do you?
Yeah.
And how
not
many
very
customers
much.
are coming and asking
No,
for tripe?
not
these
much.
days?
It wasn't worth me getting it and putting it in the
No.
window because
There's
I
a lot of
didn't really
kids-
want it.
A lot of kids that say,
Yeah, that's right. Well,
that.
that's right. Yeah.
So they don't eat all
no.
these things that we used to think were good. Kidneys?
Kidneys, yeah. Well, the kidneys are popular. People still eat kidneys, which I can't quite understand because what does a kidney do? It cleans your wastewater. So all that goes through there. Yeah. And a heart, which wouldn't eat a heart. They'll eat a kidney, wouldn't eat a heart, and all that goes through is the blood. It just pumps the blood round, doesn't it?
Yeah.
They wouldn't eat that.
Yeah. It's not logical, is it?
No,
It's
no,
just
but-
sensibilities.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
So yeah, so that comes back there. And pigs and lambs come back whole. Lambs are completely whole. Pigs are often split. They split them in half and come back. So we can have them back whole. So they're whole or split. But a lot of butchers now don't buy particularly whole beef. They just buy it in box at the abattoir. They have a processing plant where the beef goes through, and they have butchers there that bone it all out, and then they vac pack it and box it. So you buy a box of top sides, a box of sirloins, or whatever it might be.
So that the butcher's job is really reduced then.
It is, yes.
The skills are
the
reduced.
skills, yeah.
Yeah.
They they do it. So firstly, it's time. Secondly, it's space, because obviously having quarters of beef, you hump them about and room to hang them all. And also, it's probably easier management in a way. They can just buy a box of rumps, and then they get a bit short, buy another box of rump. They can buy a box of stewing beef or whatever else they want. And so they can just buy it as they want it. Rather, if you buy a whole animal, you've got to use all the bits up and sort it all out, which we did. But of course, sometimes we did have to buy, especially in the summer, we might have to buy extra steak because people eat steak more with barbecues and that sort of thing, a bit more. And you didn't want the stews so much, so and sometimes we would tend to stockpile. So in the winter months, I would, if I was using a lot of stewing beef and not so much steak, I would still keep having my cattle in, and then I'd freeze down the steaks, and then I could bring them out in the summer, and vice versa. Yeah. In the summer months, freeze down the stewing and that I could use then in the winter months. Yeah. But I like to do. I was a firm believer in that the animals, particularly all of them, cattle, sheep, and pigs, if they go to the local abattoir with the stockman they know, that they die better, a lot happier, and the meat eats better.
Yes, I've heard that said. It's not just the welfare of the animal. You think of a happy animal.
Yes.
Not stressed out.
That's right.
But the meat is better.
Yes. Well, if the person that takes them into the abattoir where I bought them from, they would always take at least 2 cattle. And you always have quite a few sheep and pigs anyway. But so they always went in, well, you say, go in with a friend. If they went in on their own, they got anxious. You know, they are isolated on their own. You know, you'd probably be the same if you, you don't. They don't know. They didn't know the man that took them. They don't know the vehicle they're going in, and then they get into a strange place as well. At least if they go with another friend, they're going to be relatively calm. They're going with and off the farm. They're going with the farmer they know, the stockman. They're going in a vehicle which every chance they've been moved around in to take them into fields or bring them in from or wherever into the yards, and then they go to an abattoir which is only 3 or 4 miles away. So that's other than killing it on the farm, that's as good, the best thing you're going to get. And you can't kill it on the farm anyway.
I do find it very touching that here's the butcher talking very tenderly about the animals.
Yeah.
And I just wonder if that comes from you growing up on a farm, because I know.
Possibly.
Yeah.
But then farmers, obviously, they rear and grow things. They do everything they can to make sure animal A survives and B has a good life. And there are very few farmers and that are cruel to animals. Yes, it does happen in any walk of life. Same as if you have a dog, or people that are cruel with dogs and cats and everything else. So I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but vast majorities are very proud of their animals and their breeding. Well, Janet will know that as well as anybody. And as a butcher, and again, I used to have, at one time I did have a small farm, and do some own animals, and I hated picking out the animals and out of the abattoir. I really didn't like it. But once they were a carcass, I didn't mind at all. And
interesting.
Yeah, I don't like the slaughter inside, from the fact that I'm having to do it. I do it, you know, I have chickens and that, and if they need killing, I kill them.
Well, I do remember when there was a hoo-ha about mad cow disease and all this, and you used to have a notice on your shop, we know where all our animals come from.
Yes.
And I thought that was great, actually. I thought it was great as a truth, and great that you could say that.
Yes.
It's reassuring, actually.
That's right. That's right.
Very important.
Yes.
Can I just ask you, is there any difference in the conformation of store cattle and winter barn? A store cow is one that's stayed outside all winter. Do you notice any difference between a store beef and those that have been barned for the winter?
No, not probably not. In all honesty, well, if they've been out all winter, they'll need. You wouldn't fatten them in the winter months probably if they were outside, unless you gave them a lot of cake outside. But no, you wouldn't. You might the opposite. The ones inside might be worse if they've had a lot of cake and say silage which might make the
Too
the
fat.
fat. Well, no, not necessarily fat. It might make the fat yellow. So sometimes that comes through in the. But no, it wouldn't really make a great deal. But there again, most cattle I had did have a spell out on grass that they would go out, because most cattle, not many cattle now stay out all winter on farms. The vast majority do come in the winter months and are out in the summer months. There's certainly some people that fatten beef animals will fatten them inside, so if they're nearly fit, the chance are they'd keep them in through the summer rather than turn them out. Although they would have probably been out the year before, because again, most cattle are probably around about 2 years old, 2 to 3 years old when they're, or 2.5 years old when they're slaughtered.
So go back to what you do in the shop, because your skill then is taking the meat off as trimly as you can without any waste.
Well, again, yes, that is, but that has changed a little bit. When I started in the trade, and my nature is to get every last bit off the bone you can. So yeah, we bone it out. Virtually every bone is taken out individually, and some of them, like the vertebrae and the neck bones, are very funny shapes. So you've got to go in and out of all those. Whereas like a rib bone, it's just nice and straight. So yes, we do. But the thinking is a little bit the age we live in. Is it cost effective to stand over it, getting every little bit of meat? And when you're paying staff at, I don't know, £20, £30 an hour, whatever it is nowadays, is it worth getting that other little sort of half an ounce or 2 ounces off a bit of so we did tend not to necessarily get every little bit off.
Yeah. And what happens to the bones? Where do they go?
The bones, they go off for processing. Years ago they went off to make bone meal.
Yeah.
And the fat used to go off for rendering to make cosmetics and fat and all sorts of things. Now, whether any of it goes, I'm not sure, or whether it's all just incinerated.
You're going to put people off cosmetics now, you know.
Yeah. Well, that's what it used to go. Well, I suppose they must use some for it now, but where it comes, I don't know.
Why does it not go for bone meal? Because that was such a fantastic...
Well, because of the BSE job.
Really?
Yeah. Because of the
and that
bones.
lasts through all that processing.
Yes. So whether any of it does go, I don't know. Do you get bone meal anymore? I don't know. Do you? For gardening?
Yes, I've bought boxes for the gardeners.
You still do? Yeah,
Yes.
so they still do it in a bit. But I think the vast majority just go for incinerating, though. It's all collected. Again, that years ago, I used to get a few pounds a week for bones. You know, they'd come and collect it, and then they paid you so much for it. You kept the fat separate and the bones separately, and he came on. Then it got that there wasn't much in it, so they just take it away for you, but give you nothing for it. Now we pay a lot of money to get it taken away.
Really?
Yeah, it costs.
Completely changed.
Yeah, I can't remember how much it's.
I was outside the butcher's one day last summer when the lorry came for all the
bins.
The rubbish.
Yeah.
And the smell of that lorry, I thought that hasn't been cleaned out for a long time, and I felt that wasn't right.
No, they normally do clean them out quite well. Maybe it's just unfortunate. It was the summer months, was it? Yeah. But they take it away, and they got a yard where they just tip it all, I think, and then they go then with big arctics and collect it all up and then take it off. And I think most of it is incinerated, which is criminal, really. It's a shame, isn't it?
Terrible waste.
Yeah.
Yes, that was a valuable thing for a gardener.
Yes.
So did you go from college then to work in your shop in Whitney?
Well, what happened was, as I said, I was at technical college, and then I decided to do the butchery. So I was sort of said I was at home, obviously, with parents and the dad. And he said, well, a friend of his used to run the several shops in Oxford for somebody. They'd got about half a dozen Oldham shops, if anyone would know them. And so he asked him about it, and he said, well, one of the best places to get a training is Sainsbury's. They got a very good butchery thing there. So I applied to Sainsbury's for a job as a butcher and got the job. So that would have been in probably about April, May, June, possibly, of the year that I was finishing tech, which would have been in 1969. So I got the job to start in September at Sainsbury's. Then in those days, my shop I had in Whitney was in Corn Street. It was owned by a chap called Joe Hamilton. You probably would have known, would you, Joe? Yeah. And that's where we used to get our meat from as a family. And I don't know whether I went in there to get something from Mum or whether I was on the way back from college. I can't quite remember now. But I called in there anyway and was chatting to him and said, I'm going into the butchery. I'm starting at Sainsbury's in September. He said, well, if you want a little job before you go, he said, a chap that works for me's left. You want to come your hand for a few months? I said, well, all right then, okay, that's fine. So I went to work for him, and it was him. There was a chap that had got a pub at Finstock, and he used to come in 2 or 3 mornings a week and outbreak the meat down, and a woman that used to come in from Bampton, as a matter of fact, and took orders to go around. I had a delivery round, so she'd go around, get the orders, then come in the shop, and we cut the orders one day and then deliver them the next day. She came in about twice a week, I think, Tuesday and Thursday or Friday, something like that, and did that. And that was all the staff there was. Oh, and I had one full-time butcher. Well, the full-time butcher had left, so he was, in a bit of a spot. So I went and helped out. Because obviously I didn't know what I was doing as such, because I'd not done any training. But so I went to work for him, and we very soon got on really well.
Yeah.
Really well. He's a very genuine chap. When it came to September, he said, "Oh, we said, well, do you want to stay here rather than go to Sainsbury's and stay and have a career with me?" I said, "Well, no, I got the job at Sainsbury's. I'll go and see what it's all about now I get on." So I went to Sainsbury's in September, and I had 3 weeks in Blackfriars in London. So I went up on the Monday, and then it was intense training, so I actually just out on the boning outside, so they pretty much had quarters of beef which we had to bone out and break down, and pigs and lambs, so it was mainly on the beef. So I had 3 weeks there, and then I went, when that finished, I then went to Cowley. There was a butcher's, a little supermarket in Cowley Centre. So I went up there for 6 months. But on my day off, I had a day off on a Monday, so I used to go to Mr Hamilton, the butcher's in Whitney, in the morning, and then in the afternoon, and help him out. And then in the afternoon, I went to college 1 day a week. And in those days, it was where Brookes University is now, in Headington. But it was a technical college in those days. And there was a butchery course, so I went that on a basic butchery. So that went on. So for 6 months I was at Cowley at Sainsbury's, and so I was in the meat plant, boning out meat and rolling it and that, and then we'd cut it up and give it to the women, who then put it on trays, who over-wrapped it and then put it into the supermarket. Into the supermarket. But it was a bit like a factory, really. You'd say, okay, well, you can bone out shoulders this morning. So the bins would come in with shoulders of pork in, and so I'd just bone them all out, tie them up, off they go, another one. And I said to the father, I said, but it's too much like a factory, I'm not really enjoying it.
It's not like
a
shop where you do a bit of this, bit of that.
No, so I asked for a transfer, and I got transferred down to Oxford. Yeah. And they had a manual shop then, in those days, which was by Carfax. I can't remember, I don't know where the shop is now. It was nearly next to what was Lloyd's Bank there. Is it Rye Mills? There's a stationer's in High Street, the top of High Street.
There is one.
I think it was somewhere just there.
4 shops down
yes.
from Carfax.
Nearly opposite, there's a cigarette tobacconist, and that wasn't there. Yeah. It was virtually opposite there. So I worked there, and we worked down in the basement. So the lorries would come. We didn't have whole carcasses. It was cut down what they call primals. So the beef would be cut down into, I don't know, how many primals would be in a side? Probably about half a dozen or 10 probably. So you get say a rump and loin or something, and they were in bins. The lorry would pull up, and there was a hatch on the pavement like they have outside pubs where you roll the barrels down. It was the same with the meat. There's a chute, and they put the barrels down. Then we were down in the basement, and the bins came. Lorry came, bins came down the bottom, then we'd bone them all out, cut it all up, and then there was a little lift just to take the meat up onto the first floor where there were counters where you served. So I had some of the time I'd be down boning out, preparing, and other times I'd be up on the counter serving the customers, and that was great. So I got to know how to serve customers, customer relationship. But you'd have all the meat out in trays. But then it would come from head office. There was obviously a butchery manager as well. There was the overall shop manager. But the head office would say, right, well, that tray's got mince in, that one will be stew and steak, that one's lamb chops, that one's pork chops, whatever it might be. And that's how it had to be. The butchery manager couldn't think, well, they're not selling very well, then we move this round or we'll do that. And so, again, to me, even if I'd got to be a butchery manager or something, you were still all the time, you couldn't sort of think for yourself, you had to do what they said. So so I stuck a year out. I said to Dad said, well, you do a year, do the 4 seasons. So I stayed through to the next September, and then I went back to work for Mr. Hamilton, or Joe Hamilton. So I by then obviously I sort of knew what to do. I could cut meat and everything, and I'd stayed on at college. So I did 2 years in Oxford at college, and there were several other. There was about a dozen on it, I expect, butchers in those days, of which 2 or 3 of them were sons of butchers around Oxford. There was a Pills from Cowley, I remember. There was a Gibbard from the Covered Market. I think there might have been 1 or 2 others. Anyway, when they finished that, it was just a basic course. I wanted to do a bit more, so I went on to London, to Smithfield. So, but none of the others did. They just stopped at that, which I was always a bit surprised.
Went off to their dad's shop.
Yes, they didn't want to. But
did you learn it a lot from Smithfield?
Well,
it's such a big centre.
Well, yes, I went to Smith. I used to drive to Oxford station, get on the bus at the train in Oxford, then on the underground at Paddington, then on Paddington.
This is on a daily basis? Or
No, weekly.
That
was on my day off on a Monday. I used to do that.
What time did you have to leave?
Well, it wasn't particularly. I can't remember.
Because I was at Smithfield starting at sort of 4
Oh,
in the
no,
morning.
it wasn't like that.
Okay.
No,
All right.
college started at, I don't know, 9, 10 o'clock time, I think.
Okay.
It was probably left 6, 7 o'clock, I can't remember now. So, yeah, it was by Smithfield Market, as you say, where they actually buy there. We didn't do a great deal of cutting, but I didn't need that, because I'd done a certain amount at college in Oxford, and of course I'd done a certain little bit with Joe Hamilton, because I say that, because although I could cut out, there are different ways of doing things, like anything in life. Yeah, yes, but I suppose the main what I learnt was at Sainsbury's. I did learn techniques there, of which right to the end I did, particularly on the hindquarters of beef, where you get top side, silver side, rump steaks, fillet, sirloin steak. They're pretty basic. It doesn't alter a huge amount how you do that, but the way you do a forequarter is the shoulder meat. And how you get the ribs and everything off. So it was pretty much the Sainsbury's way that I did, and it's like tying the knots. I used to learn several ways of doing different knots. The knot I always used was Sainsbury's. I stuck to that one, the one they showed me.
When you're tying the knots, you mean in the string that you
yes,
tied up
that's
the
right,
joint?
tying up the joints. Yeah.
Okay.
So I went to London for 2 years, but it wasn't on the cutting. It was mainly on the bookkeeping and the costings, because years ago in a lot of businesses, they didn't do paperwork, costings and work out things. I know my father said that when he left school, he went to college and did a basic accountancy course because he needed some books to give to the accountant for the tax returns, but otherwise they didn't really bother. And in the butchery trade, Joe Hamilton, he didn't know about costings, because I worked in all those percentages. I lived by percentages.
Is that just instinctive for you? You've got that kind of a mind?
Yeah. As I said, I was a bit dyslexic, so the English side of me isn't very good at all. But the maths side is. I'm quite good. Well, general arithmetic, I wouldn't say I'm good at algebra and that sort of thing. But general arithmetic, adding up and dividing, and I'm very good at. And I always was. So, but we always work on percentages. So if you buy a bit of meat, you work out your percentage. That's what you sell it for. And the percentages, obviously, work out how much you need to cover your costs and then to make a profit. So you buy your animal and you've got to cost it all out, and so it's all done on percentages. So, and that is what I learned at college. That was the big thing I learned. So when I came back, well, I started learning it in Oxford. In Oxford at one stage, and I came back and said to my old boss, now what are you charging for it? And when say he was having some beef and beef went up twopence a pound, he would think, well, okay, well I better put a little bit more on the sirloin and a bit on the rump and this sort of thing to cover the costs. And then at the end of the month he'd look at his bank statement. No, well, that looks about right. Making a bit of money. But that's how they did it. It's laughable now, but that's how it was done. And I came back and said, no, you shouldn't do it like that. And I was a real pain to him in lots of ways, but he loved it. The fact that I came back with him, he said, well, you do it then. So I worked it out and said, well, you ought to be, this is the margin you ought to be working on, and this is how you do it. And I told him, so I used to tell him what sort of, well, I say tell him, but say this, and he used to take notice of me. So when I went to college, there was a chap called Derek Rickson who'd written a lot of books on it, and he'd done this sort of ready reckoner thing for working it all out, how to do costings, and I was really quite good at that. And I sort of, there was exam thing at the end of the year, and I sort of got the best in the country
I was going to ask
for,
you,
for a
did you get?
part-time student.
Yes, did you get prizes? Or
Yes, I did a bit.
You
Yeah,
did.
that
Tell
was
us
the main
about the
thing.
prizes. Then.
Well,
Come on.
that was it really for that. And obviously I did pass my exams okay at
Yeah.
college. It was different. But then of course after I left college, then the computers started to come in. Of course, that was a big difference. And of course, the other thing that made a lot of difference to me was in 1973, was it, when the decimalisation? Because you think a customer would come in the shop, you had the old-fashioned scales, which literally only weighed, or then they had the ones that priced a bit, but they bought something at £2, £4,
7 and 6.
yeah, 7 and 6, and something else at something, about 10 different items. The only way of doing it was that write it all on a bit of paper and add them all up in your head. And you had to add up the pennies, and you divide by 12, then add the shillings and divide by 20.
Incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, when decimalisation came in, of course that quickened things up a lot.
It did. But I do remember when Bampton had a power cut. No shop could open. Yours probably could, but I can remember Adrian Simmons was there. He had a candle, a light, and he could add up things in his head.
Yes.
So because he was used
That's
to
right.
that from
Yes,
the old time.
yes, it is. Yes.
No, it was
But
very
the
skilled
problem-
adding up there.
that wasn't a problem with the added pay. The problem was using the scales.
Yeah, yeah.
You see, so they should have a backup thing where you can sort of plug it into a battery and things
Yeah.
there. But that is the problem, because now the scales they'll weigh up to £99.99 or something per kilo or something like that, and it's sort of they're unbelievable what the scales are in there now.
Yes.
You can't even link them to your home screen, and you can go on there and see how many customers they're serving, and
really?
how much rump steak they've sold, and all this sort of, they like getting modern things. So yeah, so you've got to move with the times, which
And
was
you
a great
did.
thing. Yes.
And you did.
Yes.
Tell me, how did Ollie come to be in the shop? Because I remember Ollie coming in, he looked like this little plump 12-year-old.
Well, let's go back. So what happened? So I was working for Joe Hamilton.
Yeah.
That was I must have started in September 1970, I suppose.
Yeah.
Then. We really got on well. We used to say we're like father and son, really.
Lovely, yeah.
And I used to, because it was in the days when deep freezers were coming in. I said we ought to do deep freezing because they're all, people are wanting it. Oh well, you sort that out. You do that. He said, and then that's how it was.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
He trusted you.
But it helped him because it meant that he could rely on me for helping him work, and also honesty, because it's running in the shop for us. And but of course I was bringing him ideas and things.
Yeah.
And sorting it all out, because he was the one that was gaining, because he was making the money, I wasn't making anything out of it. But of course I got him behind me, and it was giving me experience. So that all went on really well. And he used to like his golf. He'd go off for several, offered hours to go off and over for a day and play golf and things, and leave me look after things. But it was quite a lot smaller shop, a lot smaller than this. It didn't anything than me. But anyway, so that was good. So sort of Moyes decided that one day when he'd probably retire, and I'd sort of gradually take over, and then he'd help me out. Sort of. Well, after 3 years, he had a massive heart attack, and it didn't kill him, but he was very ill. And the doctor said, well, you really shouldn't go back into running a business, and that you ought to probably retire. He was 60 at the time, and I was 20.
Yeah.
So obviously something in the shop. So anyway, I decided I would take the shop over from him. So that's what happened. So by the time we sorted it out, I was 21. That was in 1973.
Yeah.
So I took it over, and he did get over it, and he led a relatively normal life, and he used to just sort of come out the odd days and help me out and that. But more than that, he was a very good friend, and often I'll go and sit and chat to him and talk about things. And although the business went on and it was beyond him in a way, it was just nice to talk to somebody
Who knew about the business.
and he was one of the very few people in life who I ever had that I could talk to nearly anything about to him. Whether it be a girlfriend or personal things, apart from business.
You were very lucky in that. It's
yes,
a
it
fantastic
was.
story,
It was.
Yeah.
Now, same with father. He was brilliant. I could talk to him about business things and that, but I'd never talk about a bit personal things.
Well, that's
to him.
often the way.
Yeah. But yes, right.
So how long were you in the shop in Whitney?
So I had the Whitney shop. That was in '73.
Yeah.
I suppose I can't remember the exact dates. I think it was possibly round about the 80s that a shop in Lechlade came up, and I rented and took that on. And very soon after that, Bampton came up. A chap called Hickman was here before me, wasn't he? Ron Hickman. And I heard about that, and so I took that on. And when you're young, you sort of want to expand and move on, so that's what I did. But I always thought, Whitney's my main shop, and I'm not going to jeopardise that. So nearly all my time will be spent at Whitney. I don't want to be out and about and leaving it and then it run down. So the other the Bampton and Lechlade, I just had managers in which I oversaw. I did the costings and kept an eye on the figures. They had to produce figures every week. They had to balance the books and keep an eye. But they never really made very much. And after about 3 years, Lechlade particularly wasn't very good at all. And someone wanted it, so I let it go. So I sold that, but only rented it. Whitney, at Bampton, we actually bought the premises as well. So again, it tipped over. And then in 1994, or around that sort of time, things were changing. There were a lot more legislations coming in about health and safety and things you had to do and everything. And also where the shop was in Corn Street. Years ago, the parking was easy. There was a lot of parking outside. They'd pull up, park, and come in and get the meat. And as more and more cars got there, you couldn't park there. So I was losing customers because they couldn't park. You were not in a footfall place where people are walking by. And so I was doing more catering to compensate, really. And what with all the legislation coming that needed work spending on it, I thought, I'll finish at Whitney, sell it up, and move. And the catering I've got, I'll do from Bampton as well, and I'll come to Bampton. So that's what happened. It was 94.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah. So
Really
I altered it slightly at the back.
Yeah.
I think we might have altered the shop, put different cabinets in or something. I can't remember now.
Yeah.
So it was 94. So the best thing I ever did. Made
Oh,
lots.
didn't
So well, it made it all in. Is where I was, so I could watch what was going on, watch what was coming in. I could watch what was going out, and do it all myself and keep an eye on everything. I know some people have businesses away. I couldn't do it.
No,
I wasn't
you
clever
weren't.
enough or whatever to
Didn't
manage
want
a shop away and it to be successful.
Tell me probably there isn't a typical day, but on the sort of average day, come in what time?
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock you
Yeah.
start.
I used to get up about 5:45.
Yeah.
Have a bit of breakfast and that, and then leave home at 6:30 to get here by about 7:45. Yeah.
Yes.
And then
it's not 9
then
to 5,
they
is it?
close at different times.
Yeah.
I think they still do start at 7. It's all different. 12 on a Monday, 5 on a Tuesday, 1 on a Wednesday, 5 on a Thursday, 5:30 Friday, and 4 o'clock Saturday.
Yes.
I think he still does the same. I'm not
Yes,
sure.
I think
but-
he is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
think he is.
the main butchers they did a 50-hour week, then
Yeah.
maybe a few hours overtime on top of that possibly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you
Yeah.
always seem to be there. I must
Yes.
say. You always. Yeah.
Well, I latterly I used to get usually in the morning. Occasionally I'd have a day off, but by and large I'd go in every morning at 7. And I must admit, all my life I was very lucky. Nearly all my staff are very good in the morning. I don't like getting up in the morning. But
Don't you?
No, but because I had to do it, I did.
Yeah.
And I would never be late because I just wouldn't, because A, I've got the shop to open, and B, it's bad for the staff.
Yeah, yeah.
And you can't. It's like Saturdays. I hardly ever had a Saturday off.
Mm.
Unless I was actually on holiday, and I didn't have a huge amount of holidays, I wouldn't have a Saturday because it was an important time because we needed the staff there. It's the busiest day in the shop, and if I was kept taking Saturdays off, it didn't look good for the staff. Well, that's how I looked at it. I was probably say, "Well, you're the boss, do what you like," but I couldn't do it like that.
So did Ollie come in just as a helper?
So
How did that happen?
Yeah, Ollie, he we used to do the filled baguettes. He'd come in the morning as a school lad and have his baguette and that, and he always showed an interest. Oh, well, what's that there, and why have you got that? You know, in the counter, what's that sort of meat and all that. So he really sort of showed an interest in it. And when I had a Saturday lad, he's come in left or something, I approached him and said, Ollie, would you like a job in the shop? You're interested in what's going on? Oh, I don't know, he said, because he'd already got a job working at Goodies, I think, in the plant place.
Oh, had he?
Yeah.
Gosh, yeah.
Anyway, he thought about it and he said, no, I'll come and work for you. So he finished there and that's how it came about, yeah.
Right.
So when it comes to selling the shop, I hadn't really thought about retiring. And I've got two sons and a daughter. None of them are interested in the shop. They're always interested in what I'm doing because I'm the dad and that, but they were never interested to come into the shop, which didn't worry me. If they wanted to, great. They didn't, so that's fine. They're doing their own things. But until I came to retire, and I thought, well, it'd have been nice if I'd had one of them that I could have gradually handed it over. You know, they'd have taken over doing the day-to-day work, and I'd come and give a bit of advice and help out when they were busy or on 3 or 4 mornings a week come in or whatever else. But it wasn't to be. So I thought, what options have I got? I can either get a manager in or run it or promote someone, run it all the time. And I thought, well, I know what that's like. I'm never away from it. I'll be worrying, you know, what the takings are, how they're doing things. If they leave, I've got the staffing problems. If other staff leave, it's not the manager's going to worry about it, it's me that'll have to worry about it. So I'm not really going to be away from it. So the only answer is to sell it all. Just that's it. So, and I'd had one or two goes, about 18 months, 2 years probably before I started thinking about selling it. I had two staff left together. One, they both came from Swindon, and the shopman, I don't know what was his name, Stuart. I don't know if you remember Stuart.
I do remember Stuart.
Yes,
yeah.
he was quite a good chap, and then a young lad who you probably God jeepers, got his name there, Tom, but he worked at the back. His father used to work, well, Clive used to work with him, and his son Tom came, and he worked at the back. He didn't do much in the shop, and they came in together. And then Stuart, he bred cats, Bengal cats, worth £800 each type thing. He got several queens that he kept indoors, and then the toms, he had 2 or 3 toms in the garden, which then he'd bring in to mate, and made a lot of money. He used to go to shows, and he wanted a bit more time with those, I think. And I think he did tend to sort of go to shops or a job and stay there for a few years and then move on. Anyway, it's a shame, but he left, and Tom thought, well, I'm not going to come in on my own, and he had a chance of a job at Highworth. So all of a sudden, I was two sort of skilled butchers down in different ways. And I thought, well, there's a headache. But anyway, I did replace them with a chap called Gary, who's at the back. You probably wouldn't see very much, who does mostly cutting and that. And with John in the shop.
John.
Yeah. And I replaced them very well. They're both good lads. Particularly John's okay, but Gary at the back's very good. A lot better than ever Tom was. But when you're getting sort of towards the end of your career, you think, well, do I need these sort of problems and that really? So I thought, well, I thought I'll have to see about selling it. And then I was a bit worried about so I got an agent to see about it, and they valued it, and I thought, well, if I advertise it, you know, with my name and everything else, and the staff know, are they going to sort of leave and get jobs elsewhere, thinking, well, my job's not very safe, and someone else comes in and that, and I'm not going to have anybody to run it. So I thought, well, I'll advertise just as a butcher's in Oxfordshire, and see what happens. So I'd had it on for over a year, must be getting on for 2 years, doing it like that, and I'd had a few inquiries, but nothing very serious, and one or two sort of talked about buying it, but not for the amount that it was valued at. And the agent said, well, if you put your name on it, I'm sure it'll soon sell, because that's what will sell it, is your name. So we did that, and so I told the staff, and they were fine about it, not really surprised and all this sort of thing. So, and then within not many days, Ollie and his mum and that approached me, would you be interested in selling it to us? I said, well, yeah, I'd never thought, because Graham was worked with me. Well, Graham worked for me from a 12-year-old all my butchery life. Yeah. He's no way he would have run a business or had the money or anything else, and the other chaps wouldn't have. Clive would have done, that worked for me years ago. He would have done, and he made noises about maybe having it many years ago, which I would have let him have it, because he moved away and didn't want to know. So so I said, yeah, that's fine. Well, he was only 18, you see, Ollie, and I thought there was no way that an 18-year-old would want to take the business on. But his mother came and said, well, they wanted, and his what's her name? Alison, who's you probably know her, an accountant. So she would do all that side of it, and she was. I think she does Monday and Tuesday her accountancy, and then the rest of the week she sort of do with the business. So that's what happened. So they had it valued and everything else, and they took it. So I was really glad, really. Probably other than my son having it, the next best thing. It was someone I trained up in a local lad.
Yeah, lovely.
It's lovely, yeah.
It seems to be very successful.
Yeah,
very very nice
yes.
the way it all worked out, isn't it?
When he took it over, I said, well, I don't really want to tie myself to come in sort of every week, because the idea is to retire. But if you're on holidays or sickness or suddenly find you're short staffed, give me a ring and I'll do what I can to come and help you. And if you want any advice on anything, just give me a ring any time and I'll help you out.
And was he on the phone to you all the time?
When he first took over, it was nearly on a daily basis, might be several times a day sometimes.
Really?
Oh, Mrs. Smith's come in, she wants so and so and so. What do I give her, or how much is it, and that. Which was, and it gradually as the time got, and now he never does.
Brilliant.
And in a way, and I did used to go in a bit and help the first autumn and Christmas and that, but I haven't been in for a long time now. And I'm sorry in a way, 'cause I'd like to go. I'd like to have the odd day in there, really.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Hold it
A four-quarter out, and then
Yeah.
you go off and do yours. I could replicate that easily. There was no trouble whatsoever. A lot of the other students, they'd do a little bit, and then they couldn't remember the next bit. But if I watch someone do something practically,
Very interesting.
yeah. But you say you put a lot of words on the blackboard. You know, you have to sort of. I don't know. I'm not bad at getting letters jumbled up. You know, if I can copy it, I copy it right. Because some don't know, they get them mixed up. Well, I'm not like that, so I'm not that bad. But as I say, a bit like you were saying about Stevenson at school, because I went to the same school with my brothers, and Dad used to say, "Oh, you know, you're lazy, you don't try," and this sort of thing. And the day he died, I said it wasn't that. I did try, but it just didn't. I just didn't understand. It wouldn't stick there. You know, I couldn't.
It's really bad luck, though, isn't it? Especially in those times, because you got the name for being silly or stupid.
Yes.
And it's nothing to do with that.
Well, it was soon after they sort of recognised dyslexia, but they didn't when I was at school. You know, I wouldn't say I got bad reports, but they weren't. Oh, he tries hard and he does his best. Now it was sort of could do better, or you know, I had one or two that weren't very good, admittedly, I suppose. But as I say, I did try and do it, but it just doesn't stay there. And of course, if you can't do English, there's so many you can't do scripture, really. You can't do history, geography. You've got to write reports all about them, haven't you? You're so stuck.
But it seems to me you chose a fantastic good path for you, didn't you?
Well, it was a practical. It was really, I suppose, yes, because it was a practical thing. But
knowing animals, liking the farming.
Yes, and the costing and that side of it was all right. I mean, English was okay up to a point that much as I needed, I suppose. Yes, it was.
Very good.
Yes, it was.
Do you remember when you came here? This was talking about totally other. We were talking about the bike path. Do you remember that? Do you remember that?
Yes.
I was talking about using the disused railway line. We were trying to find a bike path into Whitby.
Yes, I do.
Remember that?
Yes.
Didn't come to anything.
No, it didn't.
It was terrible. We got all sorts of pledges and enthusiasms, and we sent off a report. We had help from West Oxfordshire District Council. We sent in a report. It was about 3 telephone directories thick, and it had all sorts of things which now was information on then coming to light about obesity in children and children not being allowed out to play and all this kind of thing. All those things have come to pass.
Yes.
I was anyway. We didn't get what we needed was the lottery money, and we never got it.
No.
So we really couldn't go anywhere.
No,
Which was a shame because now I try and cycle. It's very hard to cycle and feel safe. Now.
It is. It is.
And that's getting worse.
Yeah, ordinary 2-lane roads, like say for me in a Clanfield type thing. Okay, well, that isn't too bad from there, but a lot of them aren't. Because where I live at South Lee, to drive if I wanted to cycle from out of there, maybe to Stanton Harcourt or something, they're little trusty roads and that. And they're just not safe. I just wouldn't do that. When you say about obesity and cycling, coming here just now, I have radio. I usually have Radio Oxford, and it was saying there was a couple of people on there. Well, I was born in 52, so not dissimilar to probably you. And they said in those days there wasn't obesity.
No.
These people on there said that when I was at school, there were 2 lads that were fat, and we used to call them fatty, which you obviously wouldn't do now, but years ago you did. But no one else was fat, and it's a thing since then when you get fat people.
Yeah,
and he said the reason we used. It wasn't known that you had it, but he said as children we went out and we played and ran around and played in the trees and dug a hole and made a pond and played football and that. Well, yeah, but now they don't go out. They mess about in home on computers.
And parents are worried if they go out.
Well, that's the problem. Yeah, I was born and bred in Ducklington. I used to go out on and Mum used to say, "Don't get don't go near the river, will you?" She keep wearing. That's about all she seemed to worry about. Yeah. She didn't worry about much else, not only to get into trouble or anything. But
a lot of people here in Bampton have said, when they were children, they sometimes took sandwiches. They went out for the day.
Yeah.
They were told always stay in sight of the church spire.
Oh right, yes.
And you're back home at curfew, which was 8 o'clock.
Yeah, that's it.
So when you'd hear the curfew bell, these kids would be running home like
well, that was
mad.
the sort of way it was, but you wouldn't know, would you? And I think that's very sad, and it's not the children's fault, it's the age we live in.
It is the age we live
in. There isn't anywhere for them to go, is there?
Well, what with traffic, and then you hear about all these paedophiles and God knows what else.
I don't know if paedophiles, we don't know whether there's more paedophiles now than there were. We do not know, because then it was unmentionable.
I think that probably the fact that it wasn't mentioned, because all this... Now they keep on churning all these celebrities up. You were going back in the 60s and 70s. These people are doing all this problem, weren't they? So I think that the fact it's like a lot of things in life. We know all about it because it was so small because all the communications and news and everything else, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I remember playing cricket in the street.
Yes.
You
that's
put
right.
the dustbins
Well, you
out,
do,
and
yes.
someone would say, "Oh, there's a car coming," so you'd
Yes.
move
Yeah,
your wickets,
that's
then
right.
you'd put them back
Yeah.
again. There isn't
Yeah.
a street you
It
can
wasn't
use
out here,
now
but
for
I
that.
used to
No.
cycle with my brother and sisters. Wasn't
Yes.
here. But, if it was a car coming, shout, car coming, you go to the side. But it's
Yes.
so rare.
Yeah, well, that's right. It is,
Quite
yes.
good,
But it's
quite
not
good.
any road now.
No.
We had a thing we had to go to in Essex, a horsey thing, on last Thursday. And we were coming around the M25 at midnight. And I couldn't get over the amount of traffic on the road at midnight
You see,
on a
where
Thursday
are you
night.
all going?
Yeah, years in our day, years ago, if you were out after 11 o'clock, you would hardly see one vehicle on the road, would you?
A few years ago
Yeah.
now, our Keith, he was doing contract work, and he was picking the vehicle up down at Didcot and going up to Warsaw, which was the hub for the company, and you'd take stuff up from the south, and then you'd reverse your Arctic up to this long building, but it was all the same height as your
Yes.
container.
Unloading, yeah.
Somebody else took stuff off. You were going down to Didcot. They put it on, and at 2:30 in the morning you left, whether they finished or not. And he said, "Come with me one night," and I did. And all I can say is, at night time, lorries should be allowed to use all 3 lanes on the motorway because they were
So many.
bumper to bumper.
Yeah.
And it was before they had limiters on. They were all hammering down at 70 miles an hour, and it was packed at 3 in the
Yeah,
morning with
yeah.
lorries.
They're all trying to miss the daytime to
Yes,
get there, and it's
daytime
probably even
chaos.
worse now.
Oh,
Especially all
yes.
these overnight deliveries and things as
Yeah,
well.
it-
People have.
It is
People like
getting
me
there.
who shop online.
Yeah, yes,
don't
there's more
like
and more.
going
Yeah.
to the shops.
But you think how often you order something online, it's there the next day.
Yes.
Certainly
Yeah,
within
that's
2 or 3 days.
Yes.
It's a marvellous
Yeah.
system.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
but
So
Do-
what do you do with your time now?
Are you still gardening? That's something else.
yeah, I love the gardening.
Are
Yes.
you running? Are you running the Ducklington?
No, I haven't
Garden?
done that for a long time
Have you?
now.
Okay.
No, I don't know when I packed
That was
up.
massive. I mean, it was a
Yes.
huge affair, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah, I was president for
Compared
quite a
to
long.
Bampton's one.
Yeah, I was sort of went on the committee for a bit and secretary and one thing, and then
Yeah.
I was president for quite a number of years. I am a sort of honorary president, but not actually doing anything still, just as in name really.
Yeah.
Because I live in South Lee and they have a little show which I take part in, but I don't run it or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the big things is Rotary. I don't know if you're familiar with Rotary, charitable organisation.
I just know of it. I know it does good works,
Mm.
and you have speakers. And
Yeah,
that's all I know
right.
about
yeah.
it.
Yeah, well, I've been in that since I was early 30s, 31,
Oh,
32.
really?
Yeah, and sort of done most things in that, and I still active part in one of the. We got in it's Whitney Club, and we got about 40 odd members, I suppose, of which I'm now. Although I'm one of the young, well, about in the middle house, one of the younger one, the younger end rather than the older end, because the age of Rotary's got older all the
Does
time.
it? Yeah. Okay.
There's only about 3 or 4 been in it longer than me, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, that takes up quite a bit of time, and I enjoy that. You know, we're very
Yeah.
good socially, and I like to think I help people less fortunate than myself.
Can we apply to you?
Um,
So can we apply to you?
yes.
No, what, you know what we're doing. We're recording you for the archive, which does all this.
Yes, yes.
Collective Socialist, Baptist Socialist in a bit, and we do our exhibitions over in what was the library? Well, is the library?
Yes.
Yeah, over there.
Yeah.
And we're trying to restore the upper floor. Which, they
Yes,
took-
I
they
saw
took
on the
stair-
paper with your
Yeah.
Downton Abbey.
Yes,
thing,
yes,
yeah.
yes. So anyway, so should we apply to the Rotary, or don't you do that kind of thing?
Not really.
No, okay, that's
no,
fine, then I'll do
it's
any
not
talk.
restoration type
No,
things. No,
no.
it's
More
more.
personal stuff.
Yes,
is
it tends to be more personal
Yeah,
stuff, really. Yeah,
people.
it's always yes. It does tend to be more group things rather. I always personally, and as a club, I think we always find it difficult to know how to give money to personal people. You know, how needy are they? Often the ones that really need it are the ones that don't
Yeah.
ask for it.
Yeah.
So that's but yeah, so that takes up quite a bit of time. I did start keeping bees after I retired.
you?
Yeah,
Yes,
but
I've
I must
done
be
that
honest,
too.
I haven't got any at the moment. They didn't survive the winter, and I don't know why.
Mine didn't the year before last.
You've
year.
got some.
Yeah, and they
Yeah.
survived this winter. I've got 2 hives. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
It's a lovely thing to do.
yes,
And it goes with gardening. It kind of changes your mind about what weeds are.
yes,
There's some big weeds
Yes.
the bees love.
yes, they do. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a lot more work, a lot more to it than I thought when I started.
Yeah.
Well, I'd going into not this winter just gone, the one before. I had 2 hives. Well, I had 2 hives, and then the autumn came, and the bees, the wasps drove them out. I lost both
Yeah.
hives, which are the
Yes.
wasps.
That's it. It just means it's a weak colony.
Yes,
So,
and then this.
They
Well, I
sad.
think I didn't reduce the hole quick
Okay.
enough.
yeah.
It was too late. That the wasps were
Wasps got
getting in, and then they just. And then I got another colony. I bought another colony last spring, and had it all through the summer, and had a bit of honey off, not a huge amount. Went in the winter, and I left quite a lot of honey in there. I thought I'll leave the honey in there for them, and I kept checking it. Yeah, it seemed quite heavy, and there were a few about. And then I thought, well, I don't know, if there's any bees about. And I opened it a week or two ago, and there was none in there. There was a few dead ones, and they still got a lot of honey. So why did they die?
They
No,
died or
it could be
swarmed?
that they sworn they've left the new queen and she hasn't got mated. I mean,
Well,
it
there's
could
some
be that.
dead bees in it as well.
Yes, I don't know.
There was-
I mean, there's a lot of things going on with bees, and
Yeah.
a lot of it is to do with pesticides. We use a
Yeah.
big campaign against that. That they're using to kill off insects on things like rapeseed. Of course, the bees will eat that, and they're insects. It's very
yes,
hard business, isn't it?
yes.
And what it's doing to them is, but that's funny. You've got bees in there because that's
Yes.
affecting their ability to find their way home. That's what it's doing.
Yes, well, I did notice there was quite a few dead bees. They obviously throw them out, don't they? A lot
Yes.
of them, if they die. There were quite a few out by the hive, but I did see one or two flying in and out. This would have been about a month or so ago.
Yeah.
Not many. But then I went. I was away for a couple of weeks. When I came back, I thought, well, I can't see any bees, and it was a nice sunny day. I thought there should be some out now.
Yeah.
And I looked inside, and there weren't a huge amount, but there was quite a lot. Hundreds of dead ones. So it wasn't as though they'd all
I
gone.
wonder if it's worth taking a box full into the Whitney Beekeepers Association because they've got people there.
Might be. But and I thought, well, I checked, there were several frames still full of honey.
Yeah, so they haven't starved.
No. It wouldn't be that it was rape honey and they couldn't eat it, would it?
I don't think so. No, because if they can get water, they can still eat it. As far as I know.
Yes.
I don't.
Well, there's
know.
water not
Have you
far.
looked? Is it crystallised?
Oh, I haven't looked. No.
No, worth looking at that.
Yes.
Anyway,
It does set hard, doesn't it, rape
Yes,
honey?
yes,
Yeah.
it does. Raspberry's another one that sets hard.
Raspberry?
Yeah.
Does it?
Yeah, you have to get that
Yes.
out quickly.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I do
No,
that.
get to the Beekeepers Association.
Yes.
Do you know them?
You remember the Beekeepers Association?
Yes, I am, and I don't.
The Oxford
have,
one?
No, there's a Whitney one.
Yes. Well, I remember the Oxford one, and
Then they would help.
Yes.
They would have some news.
yeah, I
they
know
would
there's a
tell you.
Whitney one. I've got a double-barreled name, isn't it? The chap that's
I can't remember. I've got it on
chairman.
my computer.
Yes, I have.
Yes, I haven't used it except when they advertised that they've got a swarm.
Yes.
And when I lost my two colonies, I got
Yes.
swarms from them.
Yes, I ought to really get in touch with them and say if I've got a swarm. I wouldn't
Yes,
mind another.
and ask about
want
what
one.
could have happened.
Yes,
Because we need that kind of information,
yes,
really.
yes. It's a shame, really. But
Yes, it's very sad, isn't it?
yeah. So they're only just sort of down the orchard from me, so that's.
Yeah.
So I do that. I do a bit of carpentry. I say carpentry, make sheds and things. I've sort of taken that up a bit. I've made several
Have you?
sheds. For
Do you
different people,
make them
chickens.
for other people, or do you make them for
No,
you?
well, only family.
Oh,
I
okay.
wouldn't do it commercially or anything. But a friend of mine who's a builder, well, his son-in-law's quite a big builder, and when they do building work, a lot of they say make a frame for something, use all this 4x2, and once they've used it, they just bin it, throw it away, burn it. It's more trouble it's worth to try and keep it or pull out the nails and the screws. So he gives me a ring. Oh, we've got a lot come in this day, so it's dumped at the back of his house, or where he got a little bit of ground. So I go over there and I get all this timber and pull out the screws and nails and that, and it's as good as new, really. So yeah, I made a shed. What was it? About 10 by 16 for a stepson, a garden shed.
Great.
Another one for my daughter, not quite as big. And I made 2 or 3 lots of chicken houses. And I started breeding Buff Orpington chickens.
Oh,
So
have
that's
you?
what
Oh,
yes.
lovely.
Yeah.
I would like chickens, but I think they would be in conflict with my
Yeah.
garden.
Yeah, they are. They're not good in the
Yeah.
garden.
I know.
yes.
Do you know if bantams are any better?
But no, they're the
just the
same.
same?
They scratch. Yeah.
Yeah,
Not as
dandies.
big, but they still scratch.
Yeah, and that doesn't.
My
go
wife
with
keeps ducks. Now they don't scratch, but they sort of
Mess everywhere.
they mess and they sort of have a way with the beaks. So if you got a lawn, they sort of make sort of dips
Do
in
they?
it all the
Do
time.
they?
They
Yeah,
sort of
look at
rotate
that.
up with the nose. They sort of
Yeah.
peck away in that.
like
yeah.
a pig does.
So yes, but yeah, it's not. Oh, it's the water, but they sort of splash it about and eat it, so it makes all these dips. Whereas
Okay.
you have a flat bit of grass, it's got all this holes in, and they don't really graze, whereas chickens will graze a little bit.
Yes.
So yeah, I've got those. I don't know what else I do. Play a bit of golf, not as much as I ought to really. I don't seem to get
No,
out
you
there.
sound busy enough to me.
Yes, yeah.
Now, I wanted to do a summer house, and I've got all these various windows that I collected because I thought sometime I'll use those. I found in skips and things.
Mm.
So I asked Tim Tomlins if he'd do me a shed using. Oh, it's no good. That cost you more me fixing those in than it would. I was so disappointed because I have this sense you don't waste anything.
That's right. Yes.
Because it's kind of our generation, isn't it? Really, we
Yes,
don't
it
waste
is.
anything.
Yes.
But no, he wouldn't do that.
Yeah. But I still have to buy all the shiplap or something. Whatever you're going to put around the
Yes.
information. What does that cost? and then sort of some.
Yes.
I might have most of the roofing I've seen is Strainge, a bit of tin or something to put on the roofs.
Yeah. Yeah. Good.
Or felt isn't too bad, I
Yes.
suppose.
Yeah.
But yeah. So
Busy. Yes.
yeah.
We should wind up. Would you want a cup of tea now after all
No,
that
no, no.
talking?
I'll get back to my grandson's sixth birthday today.
6th.
So yeah,
lovely.
we've got a party at tea time, I think.
Yeah. Is
Then
that
I
the
might-
oldest grandson?
I might
Got
tonight.
older ones.
Well, I've got a second wife.
Yes.
So between us, she's got 4 children, I've got 3,
Yeah.
and on her side there's 3, 4, 5 grandchildren.
Yeah.
The eldest is about 9 or 10, I think. Then the
Yeah.
youngest is 3, and then on my side I've got 2, 2-year-old and a 3.5-year-old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That can keep you busy too.
Yes, they're down in Dorset.
Oh, they're down in
Yeah.
Dorset. Yeah.
Yeah. They've got a daughter getting married in about a month.
Oh,
So
brilliant.
that'd be quite nice.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Yes.
Especially nice weather. Have a lovely.
Yeah, so although we've got what's that, 7 grandchildren all between, none of them very close. They're all, these that are with us, they're up from Sussex.
Yeah.
The other 3 are down in Devon, and then mine are in Dorset. So they're all
Yeah.
about 2.5 hours away.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there are some blessings there, but actually, I wish mine were closer.
Yes.
Family, because mine one's in Scotland, one's in Amsterdam.
Oh, well, it's a long
That's
way,
ridiculous,
isn't it?
isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Whereas a bit far in a day, we sometimes do things in a day, but it's a
Yeah.
bit far, really,
Yes.
2 hours plus each way.
Yes. More time travelling
so,
than you
yeah,
are
but
there.
overnight or a weekend is okay.
Yeah.
But it'd be nice if it was maybe an hour.
Yes.
really.
Yeah. Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely.
But,
Patrick, thank you
not
very
at all.
much. Thank you for
Not at
coming
all.
and
You've got
for being a good
wonderful-
talker.